In the heart of the great city of Karnak, a heavy darkness hung in the air, suffocating the once vibrant streets with whispers of fear. The year is 1186 BCE, and this ancient capital served as the headquarters for the soldiers who protected the royal family. Yet even the most elite warriors could not shield the city from the vile sickness that had begun to spread like a sinister tide. A sickness so violent, it threatened to tear the very fabric of their society apart. The twilight sky cast an eerie glow over the city as whispers of fear and uncertainty spread like wildfire among its inhabitants. In the center court, the royal family, their consorts, and warriors gathered under the watchful eyes of their netters, etched in the stones above them. The air was thick with tension and the unspoken question that hung heavily on everyone's mind. What malevolent force was responsible for the vile sickness that craved human blood? Sai, a female Magi warrior, clenched her fists and swallowed hard against the rising bile in her throat. She had seen firsthand the devastation wreaked by this unknown enemy. Once strong men and women, reduced to pale, lifeless husk, drained of their very essence. It was a sight that haunted her every waking moment, and she knew she must find the answers before it was too late. Sai and Tai quietly approached Nasute's throne. The whispers of the ancient stone walls seemed to echo with their every step, making the royal chambers feel more like a tomb than a place of council. Shadows writhed in the flickering torchlight, as if they too were eager for the grim news. Nasute, Sai began, her voice hoarse from a lack of sleep and the weight of what she had seen. We have come to report on the sickness that has taken a hold of our people. Speak, the Nasute commanded. His eyes narrowed, his jaw set. He was a man who held the responsibility of his kingdom close to his heart, but recent events had worn him thin. Beside him stood the chief Magi, watching intently, his face a mask of stoicism. Grave news, Tai added, struggling to keep his emotions in check. Bodies have been found throughout the city, drained of blood. His voice quivered, remembering the lifeless corpses that had littered the streets like some macabre monuments. Drained? The Nasute questioned, disbelief etched in his features. What foul sorcery is this? We do not yet know, Sai admitted, clenching her fist at her side, but we must find the source before it consumes us all. Indeed, said the chief Magi, his gaze piercing through the darkness. This is no ordinary illness. It is as though the very shadows have come alive to prey on our people. Then we must act, the Nasute declared, rising from his throne and casting aside his royal scepter. We cannot allow this darkness to fester within our city. Agreed, said Sai, determination stealing her voice. But where shall we begin? Seek out the advice of the Heb-Senu, the chief Magi instructed, his voice a low growl. They are known for their knowledge of the arcane and may hold the key to stopping this plague. Very well, Tai replied, nodding in agreement. We shall find them and bring an end to this nightmare. Go with haste, the Nasute commanded, his eyes filled with hope, but fear. May the Neteru guide you through the darkness that lies ahead. As Sai and Tai turned to leave, they could feel the weight of their task bearing down on them like the heat of the desert sun. The shadows seemed to close in, threatening to swallow them whole, but they would not be deterred. Their resolve was as strong as the ancient stones that built their city, and they would stop at nothing to save their people. By all that is holy, Sai whispered as they stepped through the night, we will end this horror. With their mission clear, Tai and Sai ventured forth from the center court. As they navigated the labyrinthian alley, Sai could feel her heart pounding against her breastplate, fueled by a mix of trepidation and resolve. Tai, she whispered, her voice fogging in the chilly night air, do you think the Heb-Senu will have the answers we seek? Only one way to find out, little sister, Tai replied, his grip tightening on the hilt of his khopesh. But whatever we face it together. The certainty in Tai's voice bolstered Sai's resolve, and she steeled herself for the trials that lay ahead, for the sake of her people, her kingdom, and the brother who stood steadfast by her side. In the open market, hushed voices murmured like swarms of locusts beneath the foreboding sky. Torches flickered, casting eerie shadows on the ancient stone walls. Could it be an angry Netcher, demanding retribution for some unknown sin? One merchant posed, his voice quavering with fear. Or perhaps an enemy from afar, seeking to weaken us through dark sorcery. A seasoned warrior growled, clenching his fists. Sai, a skilled Magi, listened intently to the conjectures and accusations swirling around her. Her brow furrowed in deep thought. She felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. Keenly aware of the fate of Karnak rested on her and her brother's ability to discern the true nature of this sinister threat. Rest assured, sister, Tai replied. We will uncover the truth behind this horror and bring it to an end. The siblings made their way through the darkest streets of Karnak, their senses heightened by the eerie silence that enveloped them. Every footstep echoed ominously against the stone walls, amplifying their growing apprehension. Brother, Sai murmured, her hand instinctively gripping the hilt of her weapon, I cannot shake the feeling that something sinister watches us from the shadows. Nor can I, Tai admitted, his own hand resting on his blade. But we must press on, for the sake of those who rely on us. With each step closer to the center, the darkness seemed to grow more oppressive, threatening to smother their courage. But their resolve never wavered. They were driven by an unbreakable bond and a fierce protection of the people of Karnak. By the Neteru, sighed Breeze as they finally reached the center of the city, her heart pounding in her chest. We must find the source of this darkness before it consumes us all. Indeed. So let us begin our search and pray that we are not too late. The heavy wooden doors to the center creaked open, revealing a dimly lit chamber filled with sick and dying. The air was thick, with the acrid stench of decay, and the moans of the afflicted filled Sai and Tai's ears with a chorus of tortured souls. They hesitated at the threshold, their hearts heavy with the weight of the suffering before them. By Amun-Ra, whispered Tai, his eyes wide with horror as he surveyed the room. What has befallen these people? Sai swallowed hard, her knuckles white from gripping her weapon so tightly. We must find the Hebsenu, the doctor from the school of Imhotep. He will have answers. They navigated through the rows of makeshift beds, doing their best not to disturb the patients in their tormented slumber. Their every step felt like a betrayal, for they were healthy and whole, while those around them suffered unimaginable pains. Excuse me, Sai called out, her voice barely audible over the din of despair. Where can we find the Hebsenu from the school of Imhotep? A frail nurse looked up from tending to a patient, her eyes red-rimmed and weary. He is in his study, just down the hall. Thank you, Tai replied, giving the woman a grateful nod before leading Sai toward the study. As they entered the small, cluttered room, they found the Hebsenu hunched over a table littered with scrolls and vials. His hands trembled as he mixed concoctions, beads of sweat dripping from his furrowed brow. Honored one, Sai addressed him, her voice firm yet respectful. We are Magi, Sai and Tai, sent by our great Nasut Biti to seek your guidance in understanding this mysterious illness that plagues our city. The Hebsenu, a doctor from the Imhotep Center, looked up, his eyes sunken and hollow from countless sleepless nights. Ah, yes, the Magi. I have been expecting you. Please, Doctor, Tai implored, his desperation evident in his voice. Tell us what you know of this strange virus. What could be causing such suffering? The Hebsenu sighed deeply, rubbing his temples as if trying to push back the darkness that filled his mind. I have studied the symptoms and consulted the ancient texts, but I am no closer to understanding the cause of this affliction. It is unlike anything I have ever encountered, even in my training under Imhotep himself. The dimly lit chamber of the Hebsenu cast eerie shadows on the walls, as a flickering torchlight played tricks on their eyes. The scent of blood and decay hung heavy in the air, a palpable reminder of the grim task that lay ahead of the brother and sister team. But they steeled themselves to the horrors they might witness within this place, and those yet to come. Great Senu, Sai began, her voice wavering just slightly despite her best efforts to maintain her composure. We have been sent by the highest priestess to uncover the truth behind us. Will you help us with our quest? I will do my best, he replied solemnly, but I cannot promise you any answers. Tell us what you know, Tai urged, his voice firm but respectful. Together we may be able to piece together this dark puzzle. The Hebsenu nodded slowly, then led them through the chamber, past rows of the makeshift bed where the afflicted withered in agony. their bodies slick with sweat and marred by grotesque wounds. This sickness has spread like a wildfire through the city, he explained. It begins with a fever, then rapidly progresses into an insatiable hunger for human blood. Those who succumb to it are lost, transformed into monstrous creatures with no trace of their former selves. Sai had only heard whispers of such creatures, believed to be naught but myth and legend, until now. Tai clenched his fist, his heart pounding in his chest. What could have brought such a curse upon our place? He demanded, his anger barely restrained. The Hebsonu shook his head. I wish I knew, but there is one thing I have discovered doing my research, a connection to an ancient temple deep within the heart of the desert. It is said that this temple houses a power so dark, so malevolent, that it can unleash untold suffering on our world. Then that is where we must go, Sai declared, her resolve unwavering. If there is even a chance that the source of this evil can be found and destroyed, we owe it to our people to try. May the Neteru grant you strength and protection on your journey, the Hebsonu in turn, his voice heavy with hope, but tinged with dread. And as Sai and Tai prepared for their departure, their hearts heavy with the weight of their responsibility, they knew the path ahead would be fraught with danger and uncertainty. But for the sake of their people and for the future of Karnak itself, they vowed to face whatever darkness awaited them and emerge victorious.